the former president of the United States, got to feel good about these Fox News polls. He is just killing the field, lapping the field. This is right now among the leading contenders for the Republican nomination.
Look how well Donald Trump is doing. He's getting 54%, more than half, and he's up from February. In February, he's getting 43. What do you think changed? Do you think it's everything he's going through?
It's the rumors about his indictment clearly helped him.
Yep.
And that's what everybody is saying.
These numbers,
at least the second half.
Right. Many of them haven't gotten in the race, as you know.
Most of them. Only, what, 3 or 4 have. Yeah. And he leads. And the thing about Ron DeSantis is Ron DeSantis has not declared whether or not he is in or not. What's interesting about this particular primary poll is that of those Republicans who said that Donald Trump is their first choice, a majority of them said Ron DeSantis is their second choice. But here's one other thing that came out yesterday, and that was the Quinnipiac poll. Same topic. Who do you like better between the Republicans? And Donald Trump beat Ron DeSantis in that one, 47-33. But here's the thing: a majority of American voters said that President Trump should be disqualified from running if he is indicted, according to Quinnipiac. 88% of Democrats and 55% of independents. However, 3/4 of Republicans say that criminal charges should not prevent Donald Trump from running.
Go ahead.
I think the reason he's doing well is because of everything he's gone through. People think that if he runs, the Democrats are scared he's going to win, and so they're going to do anything they can to stop him. And I also think when you look at national security, you look at Russia and China, how tough he was. And I think the economy. The economy is number one. That's the number one concern on everyone's mind. Inflation, economy. We were doing better under Trump.
I think the strongest thing for the President of the United States is his policies look so much better than the current president, number one. Number two, the current president looks like he can't even get 3 sentences out without a script, and most of those he eats anyway. And we're watching a situation as totally out of control. Around the world with Russia, who had better policy there? In the Middle East, how was it going when Donald Trump was in charge? In Central and South America, how is it going? How is the border? How is inflation? Inflation is the number one issue. Trump had it at 2%. This person, the current president, where it's between 6 and 9% since he took over, and they told you it's transitory. If he could stay to the issues, if he could run on what he would do, judging by what he did, he'd be extremely strong. And Ron DeSantis, I can do the same thing, only I could do without the drama. That's what he's going to run on head to head. I assume he's going to try to stay out of the mud. But if they do get in the mud, keep in mind, that is usual. Obama and Hillary killed each other personally and politically. 41 and Bob Dole personally and politically. John McCain and W. So when they start going at it with each other, don't be like, wow, we're in unprecedented times. It is typical.
And see, I think that's why other Republicans are delaying whether or not they're going to get in. Chris Christie's probably going to get in. Glenn Youngkin's probably going to get in as well. DeSantis.
Why do you think they're delaying it?
Because they're just seeing how it all plays out. You know, if Trump is indicted in the next month or two...
That changes everything.
It changes everything. And so I think they're waiting to see what exactly happens.
See, I think indictments or accusations, he will feed off those accusations. When the trials, if the trials start kicking in and whatever, that'll be the issue. But the indictments will be immediate. Then the question that everyone's got to ask themselves, who could win the general? Well,
and to that point, while the Fox News polls show that Donald Trump would win the primary, the Republican primary, the Quinnipiac poll actually looked at Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. And as of today, Joe Biden still beats Donald Trump in 2024 by a couple. However, Ron DeSantis does beat Joe Biden by 2 points, 48-46. Of course, we're still, a year and a half away from any voting. It is really early, but nonetheless, there's so much involved. It's not just, and here's the thing. Every time this administration talks about something that isn't related to your money or the economy or inflation, they love that. Because the number one thing that bothers you about how things are going in this country right now is how much it's costing you for everything. We were just talking about how much repair of a household item was, and it was an unbelievably expensive thing. It would have been a small number a little while ago, and now it's through the roof.
Or interest rates. I was talking to someone the other day.
Can't
who
afford a house.
Found a house. They're in negotiations, and there is a squatter in this house, and everything's so liberal up here they can't get the squatter out. He locked in an interest rate at what, like 3% to buy that house? They cannot get the squatter out. So it hasn't gone through yet, and he doesn't want to pull out. He's trying his hardest to get the squatter out because if he goes and buys another house, the interest rate's now at what, 7
The squatter got a 0% interest rate.
Totally. It's just mind-blowing.
Have they just tried just grabbing him by the hair and just yanking him out?
That would be assault.
That's a different state. That's in South Carolina.
Remember,
Get out.
Bush 41 lost against Bill Clinton because of the economy. And the economy was ready to turn around, but no one believed it.
Stupid.
So if right now the economy, and you just ask yourself who was better on the economy, just on pure results. And you ask yourself again, Larry Summers says the rescue package, we have never recovered from a rescue package that we didn't need. Trump had this thing turned around, and the president poured gasoline on it.
And we were energy independent.
Right, and that's got to tick people off, too.
And that makes a lot of difference. You know, after Russia and Ukraine started tangling, next thing you know, we're paying, what, $6 a gallon for gas?
Yes.
And the inflation has barely recovered. We are still north of 6%. 6% takes its toll on every household in America.
The world is on fire outside our borders, too. So he was supposed to bring a sanity to it because he had 50 years of foreign policy experience. How's that going? I mean, you can't beat. We have never in our lifetime been this close to so many conflicts in so many regions.
So true.
And has Joe Biden said a word about it?
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.